Meanwhile, Bill, who I've dubbed him now, said he was working on immigration issues, a la Ronald Reagan, and Reagan worked. It gave me some background on this. There was an announcement yesterday that the Trump administration is ending the humanitarian program that has allowed almost 60,000 Haitians to live and work in the United States since the earthquake nearly destroyed, nearly totally destroyed Haiti in 2010. They are here under what is known as the temporary protected status. They will have to leave the United States by 2019 or face deportation. So you're talking about people who have been here for 7 some odd years. There are in total 320,000 people who are in this country under the temporary protected status program. It was signed into law by President George Bush the first in 1990. What they're doing is they're going group by group or people by people. And let's see if you see a pattern here, because it's not, is the situation in the home country improved, which is really the way that you would do this, right? The situation has improved so much that we're going to kick these people out. Or maybe like it's such a burden on the system. For instance, the Nicaraguans who are in this country. Last month, the Trump administration ended protections for 2,500 Nicaraguans. Are you enjoying the elbow room that's coming with that? All the job opportunities that have opened up?
What was their protection from? Like the Sandinistas in the 80s or something? What was the justification for that to begin
It's
with?
conceivable that there was a natural disaster, 10, 15 years ago that wiped out a village.
Right. Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Specifically with this. It is set up for people who've come from countries crippled by natural disasters or armed conflict that prevents them from returning or prevents their country from adequately receiving them. The largest group of temporary protected status beneficiaries, nearly 200,000 people, are from El Salvador, where it is incredibly dangerous to live.
It's one of the highest murder rates on the planet.
And next month, they're going to decide, the Department of Homeland Security is going to decide whether or not they're going to rescind it or renew it. The other beneficiaries include people from Nepal, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Syria, and Yemen.
Gone.
Indeed.
Will be sent back to Yemen to be victims of the refueling of the war crimes we're supporting.
Right, exactly.
It'll be a double tap with Yemen.
Ronald Reagan sent me an email. He says that TPS is rarely terminated and should only be done by reviewing the conditions of the country. He said in 2007, Liberia was terminated, TPS, for Liberians. However, they were granted a deferred enforcement departure, which is a deferred action. This is basically where the immigration officials, ICE says, we've got a lot higher priorities. So rather than make you live in the shadows, knowing that we're not going to get to you, we're going to give you a status so that you can actually be productive for all of us. The DED program, according to Ronald Reagan, was probably a recognition that, like, look, you've had Liberians living here for 9 years. Their families are here. They've integrated into society. Let's just not be inhuman. So we'll let them stay. He describes how TPS works. There's a designation date and a requirement of continuous physical presence since that date. So in other words, if someone's been here from 2010, they've been here the entire time. They're not going back and forth or whatnot. He said for Nicaraguans, someone had to show that they've been in the United States since January 5th, 1999. So it was directly tied to an event at that time. For Sudan, it was 1997. So he says when you hear about these programs being terminated, you're talking about people who have been in this country continuously for anywhere from 17 years in the case of Nicaragua, 18 years, 20 years in the case of Sudan. Haiti, 7 years. He says it appears they're not focusing on improved country conditions, but rather the criminal history and race of the TPS holders. He says this is a bottom-rung immigration benefit, which means basically like you're the least comfortable of immigrants in this country who are in the system. Every 2 years, they're subjected to biometric background checks and are vulnerable to removal if they have more than 2 misdemeanors on their record. I think I had like 7 in the course of like a 4-year period in my late 20s, early 30s in New York, involving bike riding, urinating, drugs, alcohol, a whole series of things. Not all in one instance. And he said only countries that face the most egregious and devastating conditions are considered for TPS. Many countries that should qualify are not considered, often for political reasons. That's his opinion. Most of the people, and here's the other thing, most of the people with DPS qualify for a removal defense. So in other words, if they are, let's say in 2019, kicked out on February 5th, or that's their date of being deported, they can move into removal proceedings and would have their cases adjudicated. However, the immigration courts are facing an unprecedented backlog. This is a function of, we've mentioned this, right? And I haven't seen the most recent statistics, but Obama actually had periods of time where more people were deported. However, arrests are up by 30 and 40% over any period under the Obama administration. And so you have all these people who are backlogged to go to the courts. Some instances, maybe they're in detention centers. I don't know. But the idea being that they're just going to overwhelm the system. They're just going to make it, they're going to destroy what they can't do statutorily, they'll do administratively. They will destroy the process. So these people who are going to lose their TPS, they're not going to be placed in removal proceedings because the removal proceedings are going to be overwhelmed. So they're just going to go into essentially the shadows. They're just going to be in this in-between status where they're basically hiding in the shadows. It's nuts, it's racist, and it's grotesque. But it's also, it's their policy. Somewhere,
what they campaigned on.
John Kelly is smiling.
No, he's a reasonable guy.
This is my only one thing that I'm a little bit
This is the one
off
thing.
on.
I'm pretty open on this stuff. Besides that, he's an idiot.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos